Week 9 of the fantasy football season. And here's a few kickers I look to start and play this week. The first guy, Cameron Dicker of Los Angeles Chargers. So Dicker, I was waiting for the breakout game over the last few games for him. And it finally came in Week 8 versus Chicago Bears, where he had 14 fantasy points in that one. Dicker, we know he's got a good boot. We know he's on a high-powered offense. And this week here, a great matchup at the New York Jets that give up the 6th most fantasy points to kickers on the season. So this Jet defense, they're bend but don't break type of unit. A lot of teams having it settle for field goals, and a lot of teams stalling out in the red zone. So this week here, I know it's not going to be an indoor game at home in Los Angeles, and it could be a bad weather type of game in New York this time of year, especially on a Monday night. Nighttime games way worse than the day with the wind and stuff. But anyway, I think they could go out there. The opportunities will be there for field goals, and this is a big game for the Chargers. So right now, with a high-powered offense, even though they're versing a great D in the Jets, I think Dicker once again goes out there and gives a good performance. Next starts Young-Ho Koo of the Atlanta Falcons. So Young-Ho Koo and the Falcons go back home, and Koo the last couple weeks, he's had double-digit fantasy games in the last two games. Week 7 at Tampa with 12, Week 8 at Tennessee with 11, and this week here, a good matchup versus the Minnesota Vikings, where we know their defense isn't all that great. This Viking offense, they're going to be in big trouble right now, I believe here. Even if they bring in a veteran quarterback, it's going to take that quarterback time to adjust and learn the system. So this offense could be off the field early and often with no Jefferson, no Kirk Cousins. I know Jordan Addison's been good, but now this whole offense is going to change, and the defense is going to be on the field more, tire out, I believe, and it'll give Young-Ho Koo more opportunities. So right now, Koo playing good football the last couple weeks. Indoor game at home, which he's better at home than he is on the road throughout his career. And once again, to start this week, the next start, Brandon Aubrey of the Dallas Cowboys. So the Cowboys came off the bye week, and they had a monster 43-20 blowout victory versus the Los Angeles Rams. Brandon Aubrey once again went out there and does what he does best, kick field goals from anywhere on the field, where we even saw him hit a 58-yarder in the Week 8 victory versus the Rams. So right now, Week 9, it's going to be a tricky type of game. Sunday ball game in Philadelphia. Weather obviously getting worse this time of year in Philadelphia, and especially in a 4:25 game where some of this game obviously will be played into the nighttime. But anyway, Brandon Aubrey hasn't missed a field goal this season, only one extra point. And this Cowboy offense, for the most part this season, they've stalled a lot in the red zone as well. So right now, while he's kicking the football well, in the top 10 in scoring and fantasy points at the position. Once again, Aubrey's the start for me. The next start's Matt Gay of the Indianapolis Colts. So Matt Gay, he's been pretty much 7-8 fantasy points at worst per game for fantasy owners. And right now, another good matchup here for Matt Gay at the Carolina Panthers. So this Panther defense we know isn't all that great, and they do give up a decent 2-3 field goals per game to kickers. So Matt Gay's still out there in over 70% of fantasy leagues. We know we got a high-paid contract for a reason in the offseason, and he's really delivered right now for fantasy owners and this Indianapolis Colts team. A guy that's reliable. He's going to kick his 2-3 field goals, most likely hit them 90% of the time. And this week in a matchup where the Colts should be in the red zone more often versus a weak Carolina defense, he's definitely a start this week. And the fifth and final kicker I have as a start here is Dustin Hopkins by the Cleveland Browns. So Dustin Hopkins, he was a hot waiver wire pickup over the last week, going from 25% owned all the way to 60% owned now is Hopkins, and rightfully so. He had some monster ball games the last few weeks here. So right now, Hopkins once again coming off a solid game. Week 8 at Seattle with 8 fantasy points, and this week here, a good matchup versus the Arizona Cardinals that give up the 9th most fantasy points to kickers on the season. So Hopkins has a big boot. He's a veteran in this league. I know he's bounced around the last few seasons with the Chargers, Indianapolis Colts. He had a cup of coffee with, but right now I think he found a home over here with this Cleveland Brown team. And then we know this Brown team, they've stalled out a lot in drives, especially the last 3 weeks with P.J. Walker in there at quarterback. So there's definitely a possibility Deshaun Watson could come back in this game here. But either way, Hopkins, he could pretty much kick it 55 yards right now for this Brown team, and he's hitting his field goals. That's a few kickers I look to start here for Week 9 of the fantasy football season.